Okay, guys, so we just want to walk you through a couple of scenes from the latest short film that we just worked on called Hold On. A really cool project. It's about a 20-minute film turning a book into a film. So I just want to have a look at a couple of scenes here and just talk about how we lit it and why we sort of made the choices that we did at the time. This was working with a pretty small crew, and we had to build the entire set in this studio. So basically, everything that you see has been built by us, apart from the chapel, which was a separate venue. But let's have a look at this first little scene here. She's meeting her boyfriend, falling in love. Here she is drawing a picture of her future that is not going to happen. It's going to be spoiled, but she doesn't know that yet. So right here, just take a look at this. Some of the things that we've been talking about. Shooting direction. We're shooting into the L of this room. You can see that here. There's lots of interesting lines happening that are all pointing towards her. Lots of interesting textures, all different textures around here. We've got the wood floors, we've got this interesting concrete, which is not real, but it looks pretty good. And then lighting wise, we've got two lights here. A really simple setup with two lights. One is a hard light. You can see this hard light coming across here. It's coming across her body. So we wanted to create this feel of there's a hard light on her body. Maybe she's sitting outside of her house, outside of the front door, something like that. So there's a hard light coming across, and then we've got this soft light across her face, which you can see here across her face. And as we go into this next shot, you can kind of get a bit more of a feel for it. We've still got this hard light coming across the frame here. Plus, we've got this soft light around her face that is going to come just ever so slightly across the front of her face until we get this kind of triangle Rembrandt kind of look on her face. And the way that we're doing that is we've got the light over on this side, but we're just bringing it around to the front of her face just enough so it goes across her nose and just touches the other side of her face. We've got basically the VL 150 from Godox. It's a cheapish light. It's a light that's only a few $100s. So pretty accessible to most people, and that's what we shot most of the keys on in this film. Plus we've got a big diffusion right here. Well, actually, it's quite a small diffusion, actually. A diffusion right here, very close in on her face, as close as we can get it, just outside of frame. And it's a 4x2 frame, so 4 foot by 2 foot. So quite a small frame, but it's just giving a little bit of softening to that VL light. Plus we've got, I think it is the VL200. It's a slightly bigger light through a window here, just producing that hard edge light. So a pretty simple light setup, but really effective, creating a nice contrast on her face here. I think we've got some negative fill on this side, just stopping some of that return, creating some contrast around her face. Creating that contrasty look. We don't want it to be too contrasty here because this is her younger stage of her life and she's feeling pretty excited about her life. This is not so dark yet. We're going to get a lot darker in the scenes to come. So she goes to sleep. She wakes up in this kind of dream reality. This is a white Infinity studio, which just happens to be the other end of the studio. We weren't planning on using this, but it was there, so we just had an idea of turning this dream into a reality of her wedding. Throw a few roses, and then do a cut into her wedding. Now, this chapel scene was a lot of fun, interesting. It is a studio chapel. It's not a real chapel. But yeah, pretty cool. So the first shot, we basically just did a whip pan into the first shot, as you can see. And again, we just threw those roses in there just to sell that first shot. So if we just freeze here, basically all we've done here is we've put a bar light above her head right here. I think it is the Nanlite 15C. So it's about a 40 centimeter light right here, a bar light right above her head, just to give a little bit more on her, because this room was a little bit brighter up front because of these windows, and then a little darker at the back. But we just wanted to really catch just a little bit in her eyes as she turned back, just to capture that just for a second. Capture this shot right here. She looks up, that little bit in her eyes, and just really show that beautiful soft lighting on her face. So that's all we've done there. And then we go forwards. Here we've got a light coming from the other side of the room. Probably the color balance is not perfect, but we were rushing through these shots this day, so it's a little warmer here, a little cooler here, but the contrast is nice. So this is basically this pretty bad guy flirting with some girls right before his wedding, and we've got basically a diffusion right here, and then we've got a larger light coming through that from the other side of the room from pretty far away. So, and then we've got this guy standing back here watching the bride, while our bad guy character is looking off into the crowd at some girls. And in the back we've got some interesting shapes going on, some interesting light. We've got a little, if you just look at the back of his head here, we've got a little kicker here that's coming from these window lights, which again are not real. We've just put lights in the back there to make those windows light up. So as we go forwards a little bit here, she's going to come forwards, and then we come into this shot right here where this girl is going to give a little comment on her thoughts about their wedding. For this shot here, we've brought in a bunch of negative fill on this side just to create some shadow, create some contrast here between the key side and the negative fill. Again, we're shooting into the corners, we're shooting into the L of the room here. We've got interesting lines happening all across the frame here with the seats, with the walls, with the patterns on the walls. Now these walls are white, which is a real challenge to get good shots with white walls. So we've tried really hard we've turned off every light basically that is back here to try to keep this as low as possible so that we can get the brightest thing in the frame. We want to be our actress's face right here. So we've basically tried to bring down every other light and bring in negative fill to try to keep the focus right in on her face when she gives her line in a second. So just out of frame right here, we've got a diffusion. Again, it's just a 4x2 diffusion. I think we may have used two layers of diffusion, and then again using the VL Godox 150 or 200, either one. I'm not sure which one we used, but again, just trying to get that just wrap around her face, and you can even see it on his face as well. Just lighting his face with a nice soft light, just coming around this side just ever so slightly, and then fading into a darker contrasty look on this side. Again, we've got layers in the frame. We've got this guy up front. We've got the flowers. Then we've got them. Then we've got another layer behind and another layer as we go back. So just trying to create depth in every shot as we go forwards. We've got, I really like, one of the things what we tried to do here was to keep him being dark and to just give her a lot more light. So his shot is a lot darker. For this shot, we're actually not shooting into the shadow, which is probably the only time in this film where we're doing that. We've got a lot of neg on the opposite side. We're shooting into the light, which is coming from behind him. And then we've just brought a little bit of wrap around his face. And you'll notice there is no eye light for him, which is really intentional. We tried to do that through the whole film, was basically the eye light really brings characters to life, and we didn't want him to come to life. So we've made it so that he is a little darker, just in his soul. So that's what we tried to do here. His levels are way down. If you look at him on the histogram, he's way down. Let me just grab a histogram here. Okay, so you can see here, basically we're really low on the histogram here. We are nowhere near, if you got clipping up here and this is black, we are really, really low. I mean, if you take this part here, which is still at around 70, that's the brightest thing in the frame, which looks quite bright, but it's actually quite dark. And then when we come over to her side, we're going to notice it's a lot brighter. She's up around, 85, heading towards 90. And that's on purpose. We really wanted her to have a beautiful eye light. So we actually brought in a light, just a small little handheld light. I got someone to hold it in there just for her, just to bring her to life. You can see the difference between her and then him. He's very dark and moody, and she is very bright and beautiful. So we've just tried to get this diffusion in really, really close with her. And as we push that light in, just bring enough wrap. So we're using two lights, one light from behind, and then just another smaller light, just to bring enough wrap around her face to come around to this side of her face, and then a bunch of neg on the right side of her face. So she is more less contrasty compared to him. The contrast ratio between him, this side and this side of his face is really extreme. And then we have the other side of her face, which is less contrasty, which just really goes with the mood of the film. She is the more positive, hopeful character, and then he is the dark character who is going to cause her a lot of trouble. And then as they come out here, I think we've just got, again, we've got one light above their head just for these few frames as they walk out. We've just brought that in on a stand and just shot that over the top. So that's a little look at how we shot this film. Hold on.